Hello, good morning, everyone. Happy Halloween. Hello, welcome. I've just let everyone in from the waiting room, so we're just giving it a few minutes here for everyone to join in. And happy Halloween, everyone. I've also got these flashy glasses. Woo! They probably won't stay on during the class because as soon as I start moving, they're probably going to fall off, but I'll keep them on for now. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Happy Halloween. Welcome. Hopefully, everyone can see me okay and hear me okay. Yes, happy Halloween. Welcome to our exercising with poles class. Today is week 3, and as the name implies, you're going to need some poles, walking poles ideally. If you don't have poles at home, you can also use anything else that's sturdy, like umbrellas or big sticks or anything else you've got. But ideally, you have some kind of a walking pole. In the past, people have also used ski poles. If you are using ski poles, just be careful because the ski poles are pointy at the bottom and you just don't want to damage your floors or slip on anything. So be a little mindful, but hopefully you've got regular poles. Yes, thank you. It's a para hat from the dollar store. This is my Halloween spirit for the day. So today, in the spirit of Halloween, we are going to do our exercising with poles class and finish off with 2 games at the end that are Halloween themed. And they are also dual tasking games. So they will be testing your cognition a bit. Woohoo! So we're saving that for the very end when we're hopefully more awake. Now, before we get going, let's talk poles for a second. So because it's a pole class, we are using poles, of course, but I do want to make a note that you want to adjust the height of your poles so that your arms are as close to 90-degree angles as possible. Now, the class is going to start in a seated position, and then we'll move on to a standing position. And so you'll probably need to adjust the height of your poles when we stand up. So for example, I've got my chair here. If I just sit sideways for a second, you can see the height of my pole right now. This is the lowest it goes, but you want your arm to be as close to 90 degrees as you can. Whereas if I stand up, you can see that my arm is more straight. And so you'll want to adjust the height of the pole so that it's around this height, where the elbow is as close to 90 degrees as possible. Of course, when you're sitting down, it's a little more difficult because the height of the poles can't really go down further than this, and that's okay. But you want to just adjust them as much as possible so you can try to get your arm into that 90-degree angle. Okay, I think I can see most people's poles. Perfect. Okay. Great. Well, let me move back to my chair and we'll get started. I might stop these from flashing because it might get a little annoying. And I think these glasses will probably fall off at some point, so I might just take them off. But for now, I'll keep them on in the spirit of Halloween. Okay, so before we start, if I turn sideways for a second, you can see that when I'm sitting down in my chair, I'm sitting forward in my chair, so I'm upright in my chair, and my spine is straight, so I'm thinking about my shoulders being stacked on top of my hips. What I don't want to do is I don't want to sit back here and lean into the chair like that. So even though we are starting in a seated position, we don't want to be sitting in a relaxed position like this. Because when your bottom is so far back in the chair and you're leaning into the backrest, it's actually very difficult to engage the different muscles in your body to exercise. And so we want to be in a more upright, ready position. And so we're using our tummy muscles to sit ourselves up so that our shoulders are over our hips. And we're shuffling our bottom forward in the seat too, because now that I'm here, you can see that my thigh is free and I can actually move my legs a lot easier than if I were to sit back here and my thighs are already attached to the chair. It's actually really hard to move my legs. And so being in a forward position is where we want to be when we're sitting. Okay, let me turn back to face you. Right, so we're gonna start off sitting nice and tall at the front of our seat, and we're just gonna hold on to our poles. And we're just gonna have them at a comfortable position. They don't need to be close, they don't need to be too far, just anywhere that feels comfortable for you. But I do want you to take a moment to look at your poles, and ideally you want the pole to be vertical. So you can see that it's perpendicular to the floor. It's not on an angle like this, it's not on an angle like this, but we're having the poles vertical to the floor so that we're not pushing into an angle on the floor. Now we're going to start with our 4-point grounding. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to think about pressing all 10 toes and both heels into the ground such that you're pressing your footprint into the floor as if you're standing or sitting in some sand, and the floor is made out of sand. So you're pressing both feet deep into the ground, growing roots into the earth from the bottom of your feet. And then we're going to think about connecting to the earth through our poles as well. We're going to press the entire length of our arms down into the poles. So we're not just pressing the handle, but you're thinking about the entire length of the arm, not just the handle, but the entire length of the arm. Pressing down into the ground, almost like gravity is pulling the entire length of your arms down into the floor such that you're growing roots into the ground through the poles. And this here is what we call our 4-point grounding. We're really thinking about connecting to the earth and grounding ourselves in our room here. So as we're doing our class today, no matter what movements we're doing, we're really trying to maintain our 4-point grounding. So we don't want to think up, 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 and light. We actually want to think down, heavy, down into the ground in order to sit up taller, in order to stand up taller. So you're getting into a tall posture by pressing down into the ground. And from here, we're going to start to weight shift in our seats. So we're going to weight shift forward and back, thinking about maintaining your 4-point grounding. So you're thinking about your seat and the floor made out of sand, and you're pressing the bottom of your hips and the bottom of your feet and your poles deep into the ground. You're weight shifting. And as we weight shift, we're still thinking about the 4-point grounding, the entire length of the arms pressing down into the ground through the poles. So we're not just pressing on the handle, we're pressing the entire length of the arms down towards the floor. Nicely done. Keep going. And we're maintaining that tall spine as we're doing this forward and backwards weight shift in our seat. And when you're ready, we're going to try the same thing, but now shifting side to side. So as we're weight shifting side to side, we're still thinking about our grounding. So we don't want to be lifting up the poles or, lifting up the legs. We want to think pressing down into the earth in order to sit taller. So we're maintaining our tall posture by pressing down into the ground and growing roots into the ground, thinking down to go up. Nicely done. And then when we're ready, we're going to come back to the middle. Now we're going to start with some marching. We're going to think about lifting the knees up towards the handle of our poles. But the entire time we're doing this, we're still thinking about grounding and pressing our arms down, the entire length of the arms gravitating towards the floor, growing roots into the earth through the bottom of our poles. And as we're marching here, you're still thinking about your feet being connected to the earth. So each foot that presses down into the floor is growing roots deep into the ground. You're thinking pressing down into the earth in order to sit up taller. And we'll try to add the arms now, thinking about opposite arm to leg. You're just kind of shifting your arms forward and back, keeping the poles attached to the floor the entire time. Breathing. Good, nicely done. Think about pressing down into the poles. The entire length of the arms gravitating to the ground. Good, keep going. I'm just gonna take these glasses off because they're falling off and I can't see you anymore. Okay, keep going. Kicking. It's almost like you're trying to kick down a door in front of you. So we don't want to kicking down here. You want to think up, like you're kicking down a little door in front of you. Or kicking down the doggy flap in front of you. Good, nicely done, everyone. Let's bring the poles a little wider this time and our feet wide. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to think about tapping the foot out to the side. So if you just look at my feet for a second, I'm tapping my foot out to the side. And as I'm tapping, I'm still sitting up tall. So I'm not going like this as I'm tapping. I'm thinking about growing taller. I'm pressing down into my seat to grow taller, pressing my feet down into the ground to grow taller. The entire length of my arms still gravitating towards the floor through the poles. And you have the added option here of lifting the opposite arm to leg if you like. You don't have to, but if you would like an extra coordination challenge here, you can lift the opposite arm to leg as you're bringing that foot out to the side. And if anything I'm doing in the class feels a little too fast, don't worry, you're more than welcome to slow it down. Your speed does not have to match my speed. You're more than welcome to adjust as needed, as long as the underlying quality of the movement stays the same. So I don't want you to go so slow that we're now like this. I want you to still reach that leg away from you as big as you can with that reach. And now we're going to keep going with this for a little bit longer, but you have the added option of now lifting that leg off the floor as well. See if you can get your balance there. You're lifting that leg off the floor as well. If not too much, don't worry, just put your foot back down and just lift the arm, whatever works for you today. But as you're doing this leg and arm lift, if you are choosing to do this option, I want to challenge you to try to sit taller. See if you can grow taller in your posture as you're doing this. And you'll probably notice that my trunk isn't really moving. So I'm not doing this. I'm exaggerating. No one's doing that. But I'm not leaning per se. I'm kind of keeping my center of gravity in the middle. Can you see that? My trunk is moving, but it's relatively stable in the middle. So I want to challenge you to really hold your abdominal muscles to see if you can maintain your trunk as stable as possible, almost like you're one of those puppets where there's a string that I pull at your back and your arms and legs move, but your trunk remains still in the middle. Last 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Back to our 4-point grounding. Really think about pressing both feet into the earth, pressing the entire length of the arms down into the earth. And then we're going to go into a marching variation. We're going to go out, out, in, out, out, in. Now again, out, in. Really make sure there's a distinction between the out and the in. We don't want the movement to be here. That's too small. We're thinking out. You want it to be very obvious we're going out and in. You want the movements to be big. Arm and leg moving together. Out, in, out, in, out, in. Try the other side. Out, in, sitting tall, and pushing down into the floor to grow taller. Out, in, out, in again, and out, in. Last 5. Sit tall. 4. Growing roots into the ground to sit tall. 3. Last 1. And rest. Okay. We're going to take a moment here to stretch out. We're going to bring our feet a little wider. So probably the same width as your chair, or maybe a tiny, tiny bit wider. And then we're going to bring our poles together, not completely together, but we want them to be narrow. And what we're going to do here is we're going to sit nice and tall, and we're going to push our arms forward. So we're leaning our body forward, pushing the arms forward, and then we're going to circle to come back up. You probably remember this from the previous weeks. We're pushing forward, stretching here, and circling to come back. Pushing forward, circling to come back. So let me do it from the side first. Keep going. Do it from the side so you can see me. Pushing forward, coming back. Big stretch, coming back. Big stretch, coming back. And as you sit back up, you're trying to draw as big of a circle as you can. And you're still thinking about that 4-point grounding. So even though we're moving our trunk now, we don't want to be lifting up. We want to think pushing down into the floor in order to sit taller. Think pushing down into the floor in order to sit taller. And you'll notice my trunk is moving. I'm leaning forward, then I'm leaning back. Leaning forward, then leaning back. Good, keep going. I'm going to turn back to facing. Leaning forward, leaning back. So we don't want to just be like this with the arms. We want to use our trunk. So it's almost like your trunk is the one moving your arms. Your trunk is leading the arm movement. Nicely done. Let's do 2 more. Nice big circle. 1 more. And let's hold your poles together for a moment. And you're going to go into a wide grip, slightly wider than your shoulder width apart. We're going to do a stretch. We're going to go down to one side. So you're trying to get one side of the pole down into the floor. We're going to go up and over. And try to get the other side of the pole to the floor. So it's almost like you're drawing a big rainbow here. And you'll probably find it easier if your feet are wider. You want your feet to be wider apart to help you with your balance. But of course, if you can't touch the floor with the poles, don't worry. You don't have to go all the way down. You can stay up here as well. But it's really important that as we're doing this, we're really opening up the chest. We don't want to be down here. We want to think up and over, drawing a rainbow or a big one. Up and over. You want the chest to face forward. Up and over. And of course, if you can touch the floor, great. If not, don't worry. Just go as far as you're comfortable going. Big stretch up and over. Big stretch up and over. 1 more to each side. Big stretch up and over. And then we're going to bring our legs in. We're going to kick our legs out to the front as we kayak our arms with the poles. So you're still in your wide grip with your arms. So we're not gripping here, we're gripping still wide, that same position that we did for drawing the rainbow. But we're now just twisting from side to side, almost like we're kayaking here. If you're an actual kayaker, don't make fun of my technique. Not quite the right kayaking technique, but you get the idea. You want to do this rotational sort of twist to either side, and we're kicking the leg up at the same time. Last 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Okay, I'm going to turn sideways for a moment. We're now going to take some time to practice our sit to stands so we can move into a standing position for the remainder of the class. Now, if you're new today, I do want to mention a couple of pointers that I had talked about in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to put my poles down for just a second. Now, a lot of the times when we do sit to stand, some people will start actually at the back of their seat. And the issue with this is that even though you feel quite stable because a lot of your leg and hips are supported on the chair, it's actually really difficult to stand in this position because your center of gravity is so far back behind your base of support. In order to bring your center of gravity up over your base of support, it's really difficult and almost impossible. And that's why if you start back here, a lot of the times you're going to need to pull up onto something in order to bring yourself up. Or sometimes you might, push your legs onto the chair. And we don't want that. We want to stand up a little more efficiently. And so what we're going to do is we're actually going to move our center of gravity forward as close to our base of support, in this case our feet, as possible. So that when we do stand, we're imagining that someone's pulled us forward over our feet. So you can see my center of gravity is here, and I'm shifting my center of gravity forward over my feet in order to push the floor away from me to stand. And same thing when you sit back down, you're bending at the hips and the chest, but you're keeping your center of gravity over your base of support. So we're not falling back into the chair, but we're really controlling our descent. So we're going to try that. And you can either use your poles or just use your chair, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But the good thing about having the poles here is that you have a little bit of an additional support in front of you, so you can feel a bit more comfortable sort of swinging your weight forward, if that makes sense. And so we all want to start at the front of our seats. We don't want to be back here. We want to be up here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to practice bringing our center of gravity over our base of support in order to push the floor away from us to stand. And then when we sit back down, exactly the same thing. You're thinking about sticking your bottom back, chest forward, and you're keeping your center of gravity on top of your base of support in order to sit back down. So join me here if you haven't already. We're going to practice our slow and controlled sit to stand and then stand to sit. And we're going to just keep going at a pace that works for you. You don't have to match my speed. Do a speed that works for you. But I want you to really concentrate on your center of gravity. Really feel where your center of gravity is. So all that good work we did earlier with weight shifting is to prep you for this. You're thinking about shifting your center of gravity forward over your base of support in order to push the floor away from you to stand. And then when you sit back down, the same thing. You're sticking your bottom back, chest forward. You're keeping your center of gravity on top of your base of support until you touch the chair. So have a play around with this. Really feel in your body where your center of gravity is. And you want to focus and work on shifting your center of gravity over your base of support. Because in a simple way of explanation, this is really what balance is. At any point in time, you're trying to keep your center of gravity on top of your moving base of support, so your feet, whether you're turning, walking, stepping over something, whatever it is that you're doing, you're trying to maintain your center of gravity over the top of your base of support in order to not fall over. And so it's really going to take some time to be able to practice that self-awareness, that body awareness, to see where your center of gravity is and how can we move our center of gravity over our base of support or maintain it over our base of support in order to stay balanced. Keep going, you're doing well. You can also try this without poles if you want to just push up from your chair. Or if you feel really unstable, you can also have, say, a table or something sturdy in front of you, just in case you feel like you're going to go forward when you stand up. But the whole point here is you're trying to go slow and really be aware of where your center of gravity is on top of your base of support. Nicely done, everyone. Let's just do 2 more in our own time. So wherever you are, just do 2 more of these. And then on your last stand, you're going to remain standing. Take your time, there's no rush. You're going to remain standing when you've done your 2. Okay. How are we doing? Are we okay? Okay. So now that we're standing, you might want to adjust the height of your poles, depending on if they're adjustable or what height you have them at when you were sitting. But we want the poles to be at a height where, if I turn sideways, you can see my elbow is at 90 degrees or as close to 90 degrees as possible. So that's the height that you want your walking sticks to be in for the standing portion of the class. We don't want it to be too low because then you're probably finding that really before. If it's too high, you might end up hurting your shoulders or being in a posture that's not what we want to be in. So you want to try to keep your height of the poles at around 90 degrees of your elbow bend if possible. Now let me stay sideways for a moment. So let's start with our 4-point grounding here. Now that we're standing, we've already done this in sitting, but let's just re-ground ourselves now that we're standing. So I want you to wiggle all 10 toes for me for a moment, and then press them down into the ground. So think about all 10 toes pressing into the floor, both heels digging down into the floor. And it's almost like you're growing roots from the soles of your feet down into the earth. And then next, we're going to think about both arms pressing down. So remember, we talked about the entire length of the arms pressing down. So we're not just pressing on the handle, but the entire length of the arms pressing down into the ground, almost like gravity is weighing our arms down into the earth. And by gravitating the length of our arms down toward the earth, we're pressing down into the poles and such that the poles are grounding into the ground. And this is our 4-point grounding. Both feet growing roots into the ground, and both poles growing roots into the ground by us pressing the entire length of the arms into the ground. And you'll feel here that as we're grounding, you're probably going to feel a little taller in your posture, growing taller by pressing the entire length of the arms into the poles and the feet pushing the floor away from you. And in this position, we're going to revisit our weight shifting. So we're going to try our forward and backwards weight shifting. And you'll notice that as I'm doing this weight shifting, I'm not bending my knees or bending my hips. I'm keeping the length of my body straight, almost like a plank of wood, almost like an inverted pendulum. And I'm using my ankles as the fulcrum here to shift weight. So I'm pressing weight into the fronts of the feet and then into the backs of the feet. And you're really trying to feel where your center of gravity is. So again, like we mentioned when we were doing the sit to stand exercise, you want to really draw some awareness to where our center of gravity is. And we're choosing to move our center of gravity over our base of support and maintaining our balance by not getting our base of support to be smaller than our center of gravity. But of course, as we get moving, we will choose to move our base of support and have our center of gravity fall. But for now, we're just practicing the forward and backwards weight shift, playing around with the parameters of where your base of support is. Now, I'm going to turn to face view. In that same position, let's try the same thing, but now we're going to go side to side. So we're weight shifting from side to side. And as we're doing this, we're not lifting the feet off the ground or the poles. We're maintaining our 4-point grounding. You're thinking about pushing the floor away from you with both feet and both poles in order to stand up taller. And the entire length of our arms are still pressing, gravitating down towards the earth. Growing roots deep into the ground from the soles of our feet. And now, an optional challenge here, if you'd like to try, see if you can shift your weight, your center of gravity, in a circle over your base of support. And as we're doing this, we're still thinking about connection with the earth through our poles and our feet. We're not lifting anything off the ground. If anything, we're pushing harder into the floor in order to stand taller. We're pushing the floor away from us in order to stand taller. And if you are doing the circle version, try the other direction. And a circle doesn't have to be very big. I'm sort of exaggerating here a little bit for you to see, but if you can only do this, that's okay. The whole point is we're trying to draw awareness to our center of gravity and controlling it and moving it over our base of support without losing our balance. And so if you can only do a very small circle, that's okay. We're just practicing here with our weight shift. Nicely done. Now let's come back to the middle and let's take this one step further, and we're going to work on now moving our base of support. So we're keeping our poles perpendicular to the ground. So see how they're vertical, they're not on an angle. We're keeping them vertical to the floor. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go into some side lunges. And you'll notice that your poles move. You can actually move it sideways with you if you'd like. And then you're going to use that same leg and you're going to push and propel yourself back to the center. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. You're lunging and then you're using that same leg. You're propelling yourself back to the center. And we'll keep going here. And I want to challenge you to make that lunge bigger than you think you're able to. So I don't want to see anyone do this because this is a little too small and it's hard for you to use your strength of the leg to propel yourself back to the middle if your feet are only this far apart. So you want to think out to the side, big push back to the middle. Out to the side, big push back to the middle. Your new side is a little more, so just hit my heater there, back to the middle. Thinking about propelling yourself back to the middle. And as we're doing this, just be aware of where your center of gravity is. So like we talked about earlier, essentially what balance is trying to maintain your center of gravity on top of your moving base of support. And so here, our base of support is moving out to the side, and we're bringing our center of gravity over our base of support, and then moving it back to the middle again when our base of support moves back to the center. Keep going. Think about that big push, propelling yourself back to the middle. Propelling yourself back to the middle. I see that. If you like an additional challenge on the next lunge, you're going to do 2 heel raises on that lunge without your height changing, and then pushing yourself back to the middle. So lunging out to the side, optional heel raises, 2 of them, without your height changing. So if I cover your foot with a blanket and I couldn't see your foot moving, it shouldn't look like we're doing this at all. You should be the same height as you're doing the heel raise. Remember, the heel raise is optional, you don't have to. you're still thinking about propelling yourself back to the middle, spine nice and long. When you propel yourself back to the middle, you're still standing tall. You're growing taller with each repetition. Nicely done. Propelling yourself back to the middle. Let's do 2 more. Wherever you are, you're doing 2 more. Propelling yourself back to the middle. Okay, and rest. You can shake out your legs for a moment. I'm going to turn sideways. We're going to go into our next exercise, and we are going to do some reverse lunges, and it looks like this. I'm stepping back, and it's almost like I'm about to kneel on the floor, but not quite, and I'm coming back. Then I'm going to do the same on the other leg. It almost looks like I'm about to kneel on the floor, but not quite. Now, if you can't get that far down, that's okay. You can take a big step and bend both knees and come back. So you can do a big step instead. If you can't do that full lunge, that's absolutely fine. But I don't want to see anyone do this. This is too small. I need to see your trunk move back and forth. So remember, we're trying to practice getting our center of gravity over our moving base of support. So whether you're doing this version or the full version is up to you, but you're trying to get your center of gravity over your moving base of support. And remember, you don't have to do the same speed as what I'm doing. You're more than welcome to slow it down. But I still want you to think about where your center of gravity is and moving it, keeping it on top of your base of support. Nicely done, everyone. Oh, I'm going to let someone in from the waiting room. Keep going. Surprised that hat is staying on. I was thinking we would fall off by now, but apparently not. Dollar store for the win. Okay, keep going. Now you have an added option. If you would like a challenge, we're going to go into our reverse lunge. And then from there, that same leg that's lunging is going to kick forward. And then you're going to replace it with the other leg. Lunge, kick. So this is an added challenge because you're going to need to power your legs up to push yourself upright and to swing that same leg into the kick at the same time. Optional, you don't have to do that. You can keep going with your reverse lunge, but if you are doing the kick, I want to challenge you to make that kick as powerful as you can. So we don't want it to be a placement of the foot forward. We want it to be a kick. Nicely done, everyone. Keep going. And as you stand up to kick, you're growing taller. Remember your 4-point grounding, you're still pressing the entire length of the arms down into the poles, gravitating the arms into the floor. Let's do 2 more. Wherever you are, just 2 more. And rest. Let's shake up the legs. How are we doing? Hopefully good. Oh, someone else in the waiting room. Okay. All right, let's go into a bit of a combination now. Let's do some squats first, and then we'll move into a quick combination to add in the things that we have done today. And then after that, we will do our Halloween games to finish. Okay, you're almost at the finish line. Okay, so we are going to do our squats, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring the poles a little bit closer together. Your feet are going to be hip width apart. And we are going to go into 2 narrow squats. And then you're going to bring your leg out and the poles out and do 2 wide squats. And then back to 2 narrow squats. I'll turn sideways in a second so you can see me. And then other side, nice and wide, 2 wide squats. Now, if I turn sideways, what I don't want to see is you squatting like this So if you see my arms, can you see the poles are remaining the same and my arms are kind of in this awkward bent position? So as I squat, I actually want to push my arms forward. So I'm pushing my arms forward. So I'm kind of stretching out, if you will. And then when I do my wide squat, same thing. You're thinking about sticking your bottom back, chest forward, and you're pushing your arms forward as you're doing the squat. Okay, let's try. So we're gonna do 2 narrow squats. You're thinking about sticking your bottom back, pushing the arms forward. And then 2 wide squats. Same thing. You're thinking about sticking your bottom back, pushing your arms forward. And then back to 2 narrow squats. 2 wide squats. You're bending your hips back behind you, and you're pushing your arms forward. And remember, you do not have to match my speed. You're more than welcome to slow it down, as long as the underlying movement remains the same. Hopefully no one's holding the breath. Keep breathing as you're doing this. Nicely done. 2 more. Pushing the arms forward, sending the hips back. And now let's hold our narrow squat. So we set our bottom back and our arms are pushing forward. We're gonna hold that position here. And as we hold that position, we're gonna take our arm and we're gonna open it out to the side and bring it forward. Other side. Arm out to the side and bring it forward. Out to the side, bring it forward. Let me turn sideways so you can see me. Out to the side, bring it forward. So you'll notice that my spine is still nice and long and I'm still sending my hips back. I'm not doing this, but I'm thinking about sending my hips back and my arms are pushing forward. Keep holding at 10, 9, breathing, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stand up, shake out those legs. Nicely done, everyone. Whew. Okay, let's do a quick combination, and then we're going to move on to our 2 Halloween games to finish. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to move to the side. I'm going to start on one side of the room. So hopefully you have a little bit of space to move. If not, just be mindful of the space that you do have. Be careful not to hit anything or stub your toes on anything. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go wide, together, wide, together, all the way to the other side of the room. Once you're on the other side of the room, we're going to go into our reverse lunge. So what we did earlier, so let me turn sideways. Remember we did this earlier? That's what we're doing. We're going to go reverse lunge, hit down the door, other side. Reverse lunge, hit down the door. Okay, and then we're going to go other way again. Lunge, together. Lunge, together, or squat rather. Together, and then same thing here. You're going reverse, kick, reverse, kick. And then again, other side, together. Open, together. Open, together. Reverse, kick, reverse, kick. Now we're going to keep going. I'm going to give you an option to challenge your balance a little bit. If you would like, you don't have to. When you're doing your reverse kick, I'm going to challenge you on the kick to lift the opposite arm as the leg doing the kick. And then back to the combination of open and close, open and close, crab walking all the way to the other side of the room. And then you go into a reverse kick with the option of lifting the opposite arm to leg. Nicely done, everyone. Remember to be careful with your surroundings. I don't want anyone to accidentally injure themselves. So just be careful you're not going to kick any furniture or hit anything. Good, nicely done. Let's do 4 more rounds wherever you are. Nicely done, everyone. Second round. So depending on the space that you've got, your rounds might be longer or shorter. I've got 2 more. Okay. My last one. Okay, when you're done, let's rest, grab some water quickly. We'll come back in just a minute. Whoops. Grab some water if you need. We've got 10 minutes left. We're right on timing. Okay, so we've got 2 games we're going to play now, and both games are going to challenge you cognitively a little bit. So we're going to be doing some dual tasking. We're going to do both physical movements, but also a bit of a brain game, if you will. So the first one we've got here is in the space that you've got, I just want you to walk. That's literally all we're doing. You're just walking around the space that you've got with your poles, thinking about the whole thing around you. Now, as you're walking, I'm going to say 3 different words. The first word is pumpkin. When I say pumpkin, you're going to stop and do this. A squat and then circle to stand. And then you keep walking. So that's pumpkin. The second word I'm going to say is witch. When I say witch, you're going to do this. You're going to step out to the side and lift the opposite arm to leg like this. You're going to do that 4 times and then keep walking. When I say ghost, you're going to stop where you are and you're going to rise up onto your toes 2 times. Okay, let's go over that again. So you're walking in your room. When I say pumpkin, you're going to stop, squat, push your arms forward, and circle your arms back and keep walking. Then when I say witch, you're going to step out to the side, lift opposite arm to leg 4 times, and keep walking. When I say ghost, you're going to rise up onto your toes 2 times. So you have to remember those things. So again, pumpkin, squat, and circle. Witch, opposite arm to leg, lifting. Ghost, rising up onto our toes. We're keeping our walking going the entire time. Okay, let's try it. So everyone start walking in the space that you've got. Just be careful not to hit anything. You can walk in whatever direction you want at whatever speed you want. Pumpkin. And then keep walking. Nicely done. Pumpkin. And keep walking. Go on to leg and then keep walking. Nicely done, everyone. Go. Rise up onto your toes. And keep walking. Good. Hopefully you get the idea. Keep walking in the space that you've got. Ghost. Oh my goodness, Good. And let's rest there. Woo! Okay. How are the brains doing? Hopefully good. We have one final game and then we're all done. The last game we're going to do, the movements we're going to do is going to be just marching on the spot. But we're lifting the opposite arm to leg as we're marching. So this is the movement. We're marching and lifting the opposite arm to leg. Now, you have the option of making this challenging. If you like, you don't have to. If you want to make it more challenging, you're going to pause on every third march for balance, like this. 1, 2, 3. Hold for a second or two. And then again, 1, 2, 3. Hold for a second or two. So those are the options. You can either just keep marching, or if you'd like to add in the balance challenge, you can do 1, 2, 3, and hold the third one for a few seconds. And then again, 1, 2, 3. Hold the third one for balance. Now, while you're doing that, because of course we can't be that angry, while you're doing that, I'm going to read you a poem. So the poem I'm reading you is a Halloween poem, and as I'm reading the poem, I want you to keep moving. So I don't want you to stop moving. We're still going to keep moving as I'm reading the poem, except you're going to count the number of times the word her comes up in the poem. So her as an H-E-R, like hers and his. So the word her is what you're looking for, and you're going to try to count the number of times the word her comes up in the poem. Okay, kind of makes sense? So while I'm reading, we're doing either the marching, the continuous marching, or you're doing the 1, 2, 3, hold your balance, and then again, 1, 2, 3, hold your balance, okay? All right, I'm gonna do the continuous version because I have to hold my paper. So I want to start with your movement, and I'm gonna start reading. So remember, you're counting the number of times the word her as an H-E-R comes up in the poem. Okay, here we go. My next door neighbor is a witch, and she lives way down in a ditch. Her clothing is a little strange because she never wants to change. She has a black robe and a black hat, green skin and a smelly black hat. A big fat wart grows on her nose and 17 pimples on her toes. But her food is even worse because she eats it course by course. Her first course is 7 dead bats laid on top of 7 rats. Then she has 20 flies with lots and lots of llama eyes. Her main course is a horrible soup because it's made with doggy poop. But worst of all is her dessert. It's little children rolled in dirt. Last night she had a witch's feast and turned into a greedy beast. I think she cooked my best friend Tilly and ate her with some peas and broccoli. Okay, how many hers do we get in the poem? You might want to hold out your fingers. Okay, I got 10 from someone. Someone else said, oh, 10. Okay, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 hers. So I think a lot of the times the word she is confused with it a little bit, but we're looking for the word her, like H-E-R. That one's tricky. How do we feel doing that? Is that kind of challenging, especially if you're doing the 3 counts and balancing? But hopefully it was lots of fun. We have 2 minutes left, so we're gonna do a quick stretch and then we are done. Okay, I'm gonna turn sideways. We're gonna send one leg back behind us. The front leg is bent and the back leg is straight. And the goal here is you're trying to reach that back heel towards the floor, and you should feel a stretch in that back calf. Really try to straighten that back leg. You might need to adjust where the leg is if you don't quite feel it. And let's switch to the other side. Front leg bent, back leg straight. Reach that heel towards the floor. And done. You can hold on to the poles or the wall, whatever is easier for you, but you have 2 options for the thigh stretch. You can either hold your foot and pull it up to your bottom, keeping your knees in one line and push your hips forward. You should feel a stretch at the front of the thigh. Or if that's too challenging, you can actually bring a chair behind you and just place the foot on the chair behind, knees in one line, and push your hips forward. The higher the seat of the chair, the more you'll feel that stretch. But the main point is knees in one line, so don't let your knees come forward, keep them in one line. And let's switch to the other leg. So either hold on to your foot and pull it to your bottom, or use a chair behind you, whatever you're more comfortable with. You're trying to keep your knees in one line, and you're going to push your bottom forward. Be done. Move the chair. We're going to go into a side lunge. If I go sideways for a second, you bring your leg out, you're bending one leg, and you're sticking your bottom back, chest straight, your spine straight, and you're hinging at the hips. So from the front, it looks like this. And you should feel it in the thigh muscle. So in the inner thigh, you should feel that there. You've got to extend your hips back and hinge at the hips. You can have the wall if you'd like, if you don't want to use the poles. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Really think about sticking your bottom back, and you should feel a stretch on the inner thigh. And bring your poles together. We're going to hold them in front of us, legs wide. We're going to do some twists. So you're swinging the poles toward the back wall. Come forward a little bit more so I don't hit my closet door there. You're twisting, and you can let your eyes follow where your arms are going to. If it doesn't make you too dizzy, you'll probably feel a little bit more of a stretch. Ooh, loud car alarm outside. I don't know if you can hear, but hopefully not. And then we're gonna reach our arms up. Whoops, my hat just fell off. We're gonna reach the arms up as high as we can towards the ceiling. And keeping that height, we're just gonna bend a little bit to the side. So we move back. So I'm reaching my arms up and I'm just bending a little bit, but I'm still reaching, pulling the arms up as high as I can. So you should feel a stretch kind of under your armpit where the side of your torso is. And then back to the middle, reaching up as high as you can. And then just a little bit of a tip to the other side, and you should feel that stretch there under that arm. And then back to the middle, drop the arms, and you are done. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the class. We do have another class next week, same time, same place. I hope you enjoy the games. Hopefully next week we can do a couple of more different dual tasking games to get our brains involved more so than just when we're exercising. And I hope you have a happy Halloween if you're celebrating or handing out candies for the kitties. Bye, everyone. Thank you.